الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعد وبعد. Imam Ibn Al-Jawzi rahimahullah, he begins from where we left off last week. He states, and we had stopped just before the ayah 35. So Imam Al-Jawzi rahimahullah, he says, quote, and so the examination of the word of Allah in this regard is where the Exalted One has said, الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم فالصالحات قانتات حافظات للغيب بما حفظ الله واللاتي تخافون نشوزهن فعظوهن واهجروهن في المضاجع واضربوهن فإن أطعنكم فلا تبغوا عليهن سبيلا إن الله كان عليا كبيرا وإن خفتم شقاق بينهما فبعثوا حكما من أهله وحكما من أهلها إن يريدا إصلاحا يوفق الله بينهما إن الله كان عليما خبيرا واعبدوا الله ولا تشركوا به شيئا وبالوالدين إحسانا وبذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين والجار ذي القربى والجار الجنب والصاحب بالجنب وبن السبيل وما ملكت أيمانكم إن الله لا يحب من كان مختالا فخورا الذين يبخلون ويأمرون الناس بالبخل ويكتمون ما آتاهم الله من فضله وأعتدنا للكافرين عذابا مهينا. The men are the maintainers over the women by how Allah has preferred some over others and by what they spend from their wealth. So the pious women are obedient, preserving in the unseen that which Allah has preserved. And those who you fear disobedience or rebellion from them, admonish them, and divide and sleep in separate beds from them, and strike them. And if they should obey you, then do not seek any way over them. Indeed, Allah, He is most high, most grand. And if you should fear any fissure between the two of you, then appoint a judge from his family and a judge from her family. If they both desire rectification, Allah will bring success between the both of them and rectify. And indeed, Allah is all-knowing, all-informed. When the Exalted One has said, and if you should fear a breach or rupture or fissure between them, the fear here that's being referred to is a warning regarding what happens if someone believes that there may develop one, or if there are conditions that may say that one could come about. Secondly, it's if one has certain knowledge that there is a breach or that there will be a breach. as said by Abu Sulaiman al-Dimashqi, and Az-Zujaj said the former. Az-Zujaj has also said that the expression ash-shiqaq, the breach, is referring to enmity. And so for every form of enmity, there are always two sides. One that feels enmity and one who feels the enmity. And this leads to a reaction. And the judge here is the one who has been appointed as a custodian to render judgment. Now there are two rulings with regards to the appointment of the two judges. One is for the ruler who shall make the judgment between the married couple when the case is brought to them. And this is said by Sa'id ibn Jubayr. As well as Ad-Dahhak. Secondly, that the judgment will return back to the married couple, as said by As-Sudai. When Allah says, if the two of them desire rectification, Ibn Abbas says, meaning if the two judges desire rectification and not the married couple, Allah will bring success or rectification between the two of them. Now, Allah will bring the rectification between the two of them being referred to in the ayah. The position of the vast majority is it's referring to the two judges. And this is stated by Ibn Abbas, Ibn Jubayr, Mujahid, Ata, and As-Sudai, and this is the Jamhur. The second is if the married couple desire rectification, as mentioned by some of the scholars of commentary. Close quote. Now this is an important point. Generally, those who were in charge of being the wali of the female and those who act as the judge are the marja'. Who are the marja'? The marja' are mentioned and also referred to as ulul amr and alladhin yustanbitunahum minhum in Surah An-Nisa, the 4th Surah, Ayat 59. They are referred to again in Surah An-Nisa, and they are referred to again in Surah An-Nahl, the 16th Surah, Ayah 106, as the Ahl al-Dhikr. Not just any ulama, but the heads of their time, the Ru'asa, the Qudaa, these two judges. Why? Because if the judges so decide to dissolve a marriage, who in Islam, after Allah and His Messenger, has the power to dissolve marriages? Ulul Amr. These are the people who are in charge of bringing government. They collapse government. They remove governments. They do all these different things. It is these people. They are known by many names. Ulul Amr. Al-Maradi'. Maradi' means the authorities. Ulul Amr. Those who are in charge of the Amr. All of these titles belong to them. So when you think governing, at the top of the spectrum is the ulama, and then under them are the qadis that they've appointed who will administer the local affairs and what have you, and the Khalifa is considered among them. The Khalifa is less than the marja', less than the ulama, less than Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, less than Imam Shafi'i, less than Imam Abu Hanifa. Now, previously it had been the absolute mujtahids, but as the absolute mujtahids died out, they passed it to the maraji' that were the highest ranking of them. So, when you want to dissolve a marriage, of what's called a fasakh, talaq is a different matter. That can be done between the married couple. But when you want to dissolve a marriage, marriages are generally dissolved by the marja or the appointed representative or the one who has received the answer from the marja. This is how it works. So, when the two judges, who will generally be two maraji', give judgment regarding the married couple, the jamhur position is if they want rectification, meaning those high-ranking ulama, not the local imam of the masjid, not the local mufti for your area, those high-ranking people for that area, because they're the only people after Allah and His prophets that have the right to loosen that which Allah has binded, which is what the marriage is. They're the only ones that can loosen that which Allah has unified. And it's one of the fitan that sometimes happens because a fasakh may need to come about. And because of the fact that in a particular area there are no maraji', you'll get an imam or other people that take it upon themselves and do it. And they don't have that authority. They don't have that authority. The authority that is invested in the marja' is an authority that is conferred. It's not one that you can earn by us sitting here reading the books. This is a conferred authority that these people have that right. So when Imam Mar'i ibn Yusuf al-Karmi was declared marja' of his time, he was declared marja' of his time by some 30 scholars. And his book, Dalil al-Talib, was declared the mainstay book, that we are pleased with him. He has done this, he has done that. And therefore, we have asked him to write this book, to compile this book, and he is the best among us. He was made the marja'. So it's important that you understand these people have the right to do so. Now, what happens in a case where, let's say a woman needs to break free from her husband, or she needs to have the marriage dissolved? She wants the marriage dissolved, and the husband will not give talaq, he will not give khula. How does this happen? There will need to be someone, either as a representative of a marja' or someone who will need to go to a marja' to get the marriage dissolved, to put the case before them. If they can't physically go before them, they will need the case to be brought before them, and the marja' will then dissolve the case. Okay, as a quick point. So who are the maraji'? The maraji' are the ulama of the ulama. They're the people that when you ask them questions, who should we confer to in this, who should we refer to in this age? They are either referred directly to or indirectly to. For example, when they came to Sheikh Ismail ibn Badran ad-Dumi, who is marja'. They came to Imam Ismail ibn Badran ad-Dumi, who is marja'. And they asked him, after you, who in this age would we consider as our authorities? And he looked at the interviewer, he was in Kuwait at the time, and he said, your authorities are none other than Sheikh Muhammad Sa'id Ramadan al-Buti, Sheikh Wahba al-Zuhaili. These people aren't even his madhab. But marja' is across the board. Sheikh Muhammad Sa'id Ramadan al-Buti, Sheikh Wahba al-Zuhaili, and Sheikh Ratib al-Nabulsi. These are the people that he named. One of the marja'as was asked before about another marja', and he said, another one is Abdur-Rahman al-Shami. These are people that among themselves, they are the marja', and they know who the marja' people are. And they tell you them so that way, on wide issues, you go to them. Now, Imam Ibn Al-Jawzi rahimahullah, he says, quote, now the two judges that are the trustees for the married couple, one of the things that must be remembered is that the married couple will need to be pleased with that which they have judged by. And the judgment of the two judges should reflect that which the married couple desire. This is the statement of Imams Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Abu Hanifa, and his scholars. However, Imams Malik and Ash-Shafi'i in their school say it's not necessary that the judgment of these two necessarily has to be that which the married couple is pleased with. Close quote. Just a quick point then. So let's say that they decide, the muraji' say, this marriage needs to be dissolved. But the married couple isn't happy with it. Well, according to the ruling of Imams Ahmed and Abu Hanifa in one statement, they wouldn't dissolve the marriage because they're not happy with it. But the rulings of Imams Malik and Shafi'i would be, it doesn't matter what they're happy with because it has to do with what the ruling is, what the judgment is in that given time. So whatever the judgment is, because it may be that they're happy to stay together, but they're violent with each other. There's people that they fight every day in and out of their marriage, violent fights. So it's best for them, even though they may say, oh, we love each other, but you have children, you are violent in front of your children, you hurt each other in front of your children, and physically you will wind up endangering the lives of your children. So the ulama say it may be a situation that one of the children may get in the way, you may wind up harming or endangering or killing one of your children inadvertently or even on purpose. Therefore, we dissolve this marriage, and it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you think. So this is why he says this. So the marja', if the husband, he doesn't want something, and the marja' has decreed that this is the case, he can pronounce talaq upon the wife. He can say anti talib to the wife, and there's nothing the husband can do about it. There's nothing he can do about it. Once you go to the marja' and you ask for the judgment and the ruling is brought down, there is nothing. This is hukm shar'i. This is revealed law being played out in front of you. There's nothing you can do. Especially when the judgment has been given, there's nothing you can do to go back on that. Because those are the people that are in charge. Imam Ibn Al-Jawzi rahimahullah says, quote, now when Allah the Exalted says, and worship Allah and do not associate anything with Him, and show goodness to the parents, the near relatives, the orphans, the poor, the near neighbor, the far neighbor, the companion that is near, and the traveler, and those who your right hands possess. Indeed, Allah does not love whoever is boastful and vainglorious. Surah An-Nisa, the 4th surah, Ayat 36. Now when the Exalted One says, and worship Allah, meaning declare Him as one, as said by Ibn Abbas, and be good to your parents, meaning show deference and all form of pride in that they raised you, and show goodness to them and obey them. And show goodness to the near relative. Now there are two statements regarding the expression the neighbor near relative. The neighbor which is between you and between this relative is another relative, someone that you share in common, and can often be referring to the cousin, as stated by Ibn Abbas, Mujahid, Ikrimah, Al-Dhahhak, Qatada, Ibn Zayd, and Muqatil. Secondly is that the near neighbor is referring to the Muslim. So the near neighbor to you in Islam, you should be good to that one. And you should be good to the far neighbor. Now it's been mentioned by Al-Mufaddal from Asim that the far neighbor can be referring to three things. Number one, it's the stranger that you have no near relative between you or him, and he is a stranger to you. It's mentioned by Ibn Abbas, Mujahid, Ata, Ikrimah, Al-Dhahhak, Ibn Zayd, and Muqatil. Secondly, it's the neighbor that is to your right, to your left, in front of you, and in back of you, all of the doors down. And this is mentioned from Ad-Dahhak from Ibn Abbas.